Hello viewers, good morning and welcome. My name is Wayne and people love pigs. It's relatively inexpensive and pretty much every bit of the animal is edible, whether it's the meat, the offals, or even the blood, as long as you know how to cook them. Applying different cooking methods to different parts of the animal makes perfect sense, right? Because they all taste slightly different. Like for instance, the ribs. Now people love ribs. I love ribs. Whether it's smoked or braised or even just boiled, you have to really make an effort in order to make ribs taste bad. I don't know, it just has that sort of aroma and the meaty flavor that no other cut has. Speaking of ribs, my grandma makes, there's no other way of putting it, the best sweet and sour ribs
in the world.
It's sticky, it's sweet, it's sour. Outside is slightly crunchy and juicy and tender in the middle. Ooh, I'm salivating just thinking about it. Anyway, today is not about ribs, but another part of the piggy that I think deserve at least as much love. Introducing the pig's trotter, or Pierre Koffmann, if you're feeling particularly fancy. The trotter is tasty all on its own, but it can also take on strong accompaniments and flavors. An ingredient taken to an art form by the Chinese, you can find it in soups, stews, all sorts of dishes. But in the West, perhaps one of the best known dishes is that created by legendary French chef Pierre Koffmann in the 70s, Pierre de Cochon farci au mori, or simply known as pig's trotter Pierre Koffmann. It is a trotter stuffed with chicken mousse, veal sweetbread, and morel mushrooms, served with a rich morel sauce. I mean, how can this dish not taste absolutely delicious? And that's what I'm gonna do today. Normally, the first job when dealing with trotters is to blowtorch them, to remove all those little hairs on them. But these ones have already been singed by the butcher, so there's no need. The objective of the assignment at hand is to take out the bone to about here, without piercing the skin. This is very much easier said than done. You see me having a difficult time finding the joint and where the bones meet, and go pretty aggressive on the knife. It's a delicate and tricky job, and a sharp knife is essential in this situation. The knife I'm using is a Japanese style boning knife, which is very thick and strong, especially at the tip. This proved to be a very wise decision. When boning the trotter, some people might leave some fat or meat on the skin. For me though, I just trim everything off. I much prefer the appearance and mouthfeel in the final dish that way. And I'm doing it very gingerly. Pierre Koffmann and Marco Pierre White can debone a trotter in under a minute in their prime. Under a minute? A minute? I mean, think of the things that we can do in 60 seconds time, right? Not much, is there? And they make it look absolutely effortless. Meanwhile, it took me 9 trotters just to get some usable footage. I guess practice does make perfect. There isn't much meat, so to speak, on a trotter. What it's made of mostly is collagen. When cooked slowly, it becomes extremely tender and gelatinous, and it's just a pleasure to eat. However, if not cooked properly, you'd chase it all around the plate. And apparently, collagen is very good for the skin, so ladies, give it a go. The deboned trotters then get submerged in the mirepoix, red wine, and veal or beef stock, and go into a moderate oven, about 150 degrees Celsius or 300 degrees Fahrenheit, to braise very, very slowly for 3 hours. Meanwhile, let's get the stuffing prepped. The stuffing is rather straightforward and consists simply of sweetbread, shallots, and morel mushrooms. and it is bonded with a heavy chicken mousseline. The mousseline, or mousse, is arguably one of the most important components of the dish, as it glues the stuffing together and keep it in shape. Okay, first thing. I minced some chicken breast and an egg white in the pre-chilled blender until quite fine. The egg white is there simply to
add some protein
and help with the bond. So if you could get your hands on some really fresh protein when making the mousseline, be it chicken or fish or shrimps, the egg white can be omitted. It is important to try and keep everything as cold as possible, and this blender really isn't the right equipment for the job. It is designed to mix liquids and not chunks of meat. As a result, it was tricky to get the chicken out. Then comes perhaps the most tedious job in a kitchen, and that is to pass the chicken through the tammy or a fine sieve to get rid of any sinew or veins, or anything we don't want. After I'd done that, the bowl of puree gets set over another bowl of ice to keep cold. Now I can start beating in the double cream. I added the cream little by little, beating it vigorously to combine. As it goes, the mixture becomes smoother, and when the mixture is thick enough to just hold together, I knew it's ready, and I put the mousse into the fridge to chill and set. Now moving on to the other ingredients of the stuffing. For the sweetbread, I first trim off the membrane. The classical way is to quickly blanch the sweetbread in some boiling water and then peel the membrane off. And the other way is what I'm doing here, just trim it straight off when it's raw. I don't think either way is right or wrong, it's just the extra moisture after blanching would hinder the Maillard reaction, making it difficult to get a nice golden crust on the sweetbread. I then cut the sweetbread into bite-sized chunks. At the moment, it's pretty late in the year and is not morel season, so I use dried ones, which is probably even better, because when drying, the flavor and umami of the mushroom gets concentrated. I just rehydrated them with some warm water and cut into pieces. The morel then gets fried together with the sweetbread and shallots in some hot grapeseed oil or other flavor neutral oils before chilling in the fridge. And now the trotters are cooked. They're tender, they're gluttonous, they're incredibly delicious on their own. But I'm gonna amplify that by stuffing it. The stuffing is bound by the chicken mousse, and I put just enough inside the trotter to bring it to its original shape. The trotter then gets wrapped reasonably tightly with aluminium foil before going into the fridge to set. All it needs now is a steam bath. But before that, let's do the sauce. For the sauce, I referenced a lot how Marco Pierre White prepared his version. Okay, I copied everything he did. So, this sauce, in terms of its concept, is really very, very basic. Simply the roasting of chicken pieces and aromatics to form the base, the deglazing with sherry vinegar, cognac, and Madeira to give the sauce a little acidity, sweetness, and the depth of flavor. And after that, the addition of stocks and morels to cook for 20 minutes to give the sauce its body, richness, and the defining character. After that, It must be passed several times through a muslin cloth to remove any solids. And because this is a reduction sauce, all I wanted was a well-extracted base to start the reduction with. Any solid left in the base would be over-extracted when reducing and therefore give off the bad taste. So you see, it is really very simple indeed to make the sauce. Nothing fancy or mysterious going on. It just requires some diligence to make it well, and a decent set of palettes to balance all those flavors. And when the sauce is as simple as this, the quality of raw ingredients really matters. That means the freshest bones and veggies, the best vinegar and wine I could afford, and the best stock. Now, after making this sauce, I really felt that the sauce is an expensive game. But it makes sense, right? Because the sauce is arguably the most important part of Western cuisine. So to make the best sauce, it requires the best stock. And in a restaurant setting, the amount of ingredient costs is eye-watering. Especially if you think about that all it boils down to, pun intended, is no more than a couple of spoonfuls of liquid. Not to mention the water, electricity, and gas bills when making the stock. If the restaurant even has the capacity to make it in-house, that is. This is especially relevant, I suppose, if you're in Europe over the past year or two. I digress. Back to Trotter. It has been steamed for 15 minutes, just enough time to cook the mousse. Let's plate up. To go with the marrow mushrooms and the earthy flavors in the stuffing and the sauce, I simply fried some wild mushrooms as garnish. Came across them in the market, really fresh. I thought, why not? They also provide a little bit of color on the plate. To me, this dish sums up old school cooking. When taking the first bite, the tenderness of the trotter, the concentrated umami flavor of the sauce, and the wonderful textures from the stuffing exploded in my mouth. It was like the piggy came back to life and smacked me right in the face with that trotter. And just when you start to think it's getting a tad too rich, the acidity and earthiness of the sauce came through and cuts the richness beautifully. Honestly, the impact of flavors and textures was just, you have to taste to believe it. This dish exemplifies you really don't need a million ingredients on the plate and, 37 courses to make a meal exciting and delicious, like so many restaurants, especially fine dining ones, are doing. To me, this is a dish that is honest, hearty, and give me some mashed potatoes, then it's a meal that I could pull up a chair, sit down, tuck in, and thoroughly enjoy with a bowl of good wine. Speaking of wine, heavy, hearty dishes like this trotter can easily overpower the wine if it hasn't got body, and it needs some tannins to cut through the richness. However, for a slightly unusual pairing, I went for this bottle of Morgon by Marcel Lapierre. While a Beaujolais isn't ideal with hearty dishes like our trotter here, I just happen to think this Morgon pairs pretty well. The berry notes and tannins stood up to the rich flavors, and the acidity cleanses the palate, prepares you for the next bite. This is just such a beautiful wine, perfect for the afternoon on a hot summer's day. Chill the bottle, pour yourself and your loved ones a glass, watch the sunset, warm breeze on your face, talk a little, giggle a little. My mind is somewhere else. I can't wait for summer. If the beef Wellington from last episode was something meant for a special occasion, then I wouldn't mind making this pig's trotter any day of the year and eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's that yum. Honestly, don't take my word for it. Make it yourself or find a restaurant that does. Get some good wine, enjoy with your loved ones, or enjoy in solitude. Either way, you're guaranteed a fantastic time. Lastly, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did making it. See you in the next one. Take care. 哎，妈呀！我的天，要命啊！